Good morning and welcome to the CEO's Dialogue by Mint. I'm Ramesh Nair, MD and CEO of Mindspace REIT. Today we meet at Mindspace Business Park, Airoli East in Navi Mumbai. Our theme is Evolving Requirements of Modern Workspaces. Talent needs are changing across industries. Workplaces are changing fast. We need to understand what really makes people happy and productive. Many companies are willing to pay more for flexibility, but we need to focus on moments that bring people together and make a difference to the business. To unpack all this, I'm joined by 5 incredible leaders who are navigating this transformation across industries and geographies. Subramaniam Chidambaram, Chief Strategy Officer, Cummins, who's redefining industrial workspaces. Surekha Shenoy Kundar, MD Russell Investments, who's reshaping financial workplace and workforce dynamics. Anil Kumar Savlagi, Global Leader, Takeda Pharma, known for creating innovation hubs with purpose and performance. Soumitra Saha, MD Lumen India, focused on integrating digital infrastructure, agility and culture. Smita Hemige, MD ANSR, with a repute of designing GCC workspaces to attract and retain talent. The workplace is no longer just a place, it's a strategy. From flexibility to culture, leaders are rethinking what workplaces must deliver today. Subbu, let me start with you. From an engineering perspective, how is Cummins reimagining the workplace of today?
So, thanks a lot, Ramesh, for this wonderful opportunity to meet such great leaders and share my thoughts. So, the way we are redefining workspaces is in line with our values, which is around diversity, inclusion, caring, and excellence and teamwork. These are 2 aspects I feel is very amply reflected in the way we are redefining things. For example, we have an entirely diverse workforce. We have a Gen Y, a Gen Z, a Gen Alpha coming into our workforce. We have a good amount of women participation in our offices. We have physically challenged, differently abled people. So the point is, how do you make the workplace inclusive for all these kinds of people? Right from the time they enter into the campus, their daily jobs, their food courts, places where they collaborate, all of these. So all of these spaces are defined, keeping all of them in mind through the value chain. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is, I spoke about excellence and teamwork. So the entire concept is about comfort for creativity. How do you create an environment that triggers creativity, but also giving the required comfort for people to do that? So having open workspaces, having focus booths, having discussion places across the office, not the typical cabins that you had in the past, all open workspaces, a lot of green within the offices, natural sunlight so people feel they are somewhere in the middle of a natural environment and sitting and not just in an air-conditioned office. So these are different ways in which we have been redefining how we need to think about our workspace.
Thanks for sharing that, Subbu. Excellent point. Surekha, how have expectations changed from leaders and the teams post-pandemic?
So I think in a little bit of context, we came in almost at the time that the pandemic was over and people were coming back to work. So we started our presence in Mumbai, India in June 23. And we moved to our final office in last year in 2024. I think the pandemic actually just didn't change the way we work. It just transformed leadership. It transformed the expectations that our teams have of us. And it became less about managing presence and more about enabling performance. So I think our focus, as we see, has been about creating a place where we are fostering trust, we are modeling flexibility, and creating environments, both physical and virtual, where people can be their most productive and happy selves. So we have a concept of hybrid wherein people come to experience the office and being with people, collaborating, having those spontaneous interactions that are important to trigger creativity. And I think Subramaniam spoke to that. And the idea is to make sure that we are providing workspaces that bring out the best in our people. They want to see the bigger purpose of how they are contributing to our business, but they also want spaces to move with their rhythm. And on that, I think our workspace rhythm, we also have a concept of a barbell. So people come in to collaborate with our local colleagues, but we do need to collaborate with our offices in Seattle, 12.5 hours away. So we let people go home for a few hours and then log in back from home. So I think that entire experience, the more seamless we make it, the better performance people will have, and the more autonomous they will feel about owning their time at office as well as at home, but very much being focused on our clients.
Very strong point, Surekha. Thanks for sharing. Anil, in Takeda, what truly makes a future-ready innovation kind of a center, and what do employees want?
Yeah, thank you, Ramesh. The futuristic ecosystem predominantly, combines the company's core values and, digitally secured, physically safe environment. At Takeda, we embed the core values, predominantly focusing heavily on the patient, life-saving treatments. We work closely with a lot of healthcare professionals, medical practitioners to, give more human-centric treatments, right? So talking about innovation, it's not about technology-driven. It's about having inclusive environment, right? So we believe in patient, people, and planet. So combining those core elements will help us to, drive towards more innovation rather traditional back office concept.
Great example, Anil. Thank you. Soumitra, Lumen is a digital-first company. How do you end up balancing infrastructure, agility, and culture?
Ramesh, thank you for having me here. Teamwork, trust, and transparency. These are the three core values on which all Luminaries globally work. Now, we truly believe that in order to bring about that right experience, it is just not the physical infrastructure, but the overall employee experience matters a lot, right? So it all boils down to how employees feel, and when they're in the office space, how they are motivated to do their job, right? So from that standpoint, we have done a couple of things to balance agility, culture, and infrastructure needs. We are probably one of the very few companies in India that offers a very holistic hybrid working model. We don't force our employees to come into work. We have two beautiful offices in Bangalore and Noida, but we have a flexible work policy. 1 day a week is when people come. But this flexibility has been given with a lot of autonomy to the teams and the team members, right? So they are in charge of their time. They own their time. They decide when to come into office and how to overlap with other teams so that productivity is maximum. Not just this, with this empowerment, we have also invested heavily in digital infrastructure. And by that, I mean two different things. First, we have provided a lot of AI utilities and a lot of collaboration tools. So that way, even when people are working remotely, they feel truly connected with the state-of-the-art infrastructure that we have hosted in our offices. The second point about this digital infrastructure is we want our people to understand and learn about our business. The reason is we want them to innovate. Now, you cannot really innovate just using technology, right? You've got to appreciate and learn the business. To facilitate that, we built a homegrown digital utility, which is like a gaming field where people come onto the arena, they play their games, they earn points, and then they get rewards at the end of the year. So if you look at the whole construct of this digital playing field, we launched two distinct sets of learning curriculums. Adhyana, which is a Sanskrit word for learning, where you actually pick up business and domain of Lumen. And we also launched Suraksha, which is cybersecurity. So you understand day-to-day nuances of how to protect your ecosystem and your customers' data, right? So with this gaming platform, people earn points every single day for every activity they do. And then at the end of the year, we have a mega program called as Nakshatra, where we reward these people who are in the top in the leaderboard. Besides this, we also encourage people to come into office when there are events like all hands, like thousands of people pour in when there are senior visitors or when we have all hands events like that. So I think it is a good blend of digital and physical infrastructure, plus keeping in mind the overall employee experience and well-being.
Soumitra, great point, well put. Smita, you work for many global enterprises. What are the workplace expectations of these global enterprises?
Thanks for having me here, Ramesh. It's a pleasure being here. GCCs are basically extensions of the enterprises. So what that means is that organizations are looking to have their values, culture, a lot of that, seamlessly embodied or physical embodiment of what they stand for. So many times the GCCs are a mirror of what we have seen with these, as mirror enterprises that set up here in India. In some cases, a first-class lounge carpet that's there in their lounge is actually there in their reception area to kind of create connections. Or it could have a great hall, which is there as part of their infrastructure back at HQ, which is then gets represented here. Another interesting point that we're getting to see is we call this unit as workspace. We are the largest player in the GCC space when it comes to real estate. We own about 12 million square feet of real estate in terms of leasing across the country. And we've seen the work and the space is, one word where the work happens in that space. And this work is constantly evolving because people now, with the help of AI, are not really looking at, should you sit in an office and code? You have enough tools and platforms that's actually helping you do this a lot better. So which means the whole purpose of how the office is going to play out is constantly evolving. So which means the role of having holographics, the role of having AR, VR, to kind of support a lot of the innovators, doers who are part of the workforce. It's about creating new environments for the future. And I think that's where the whole world is morphing to when we're thinking about the GCC workspace.
Smita, very relevant point, very strong takeaway. Workplaces aren't just desks and meeting rooms. They start with the campus, the commute, and the surroundings. Corporates want environments that boost productivity, well-being, and sustainability. Subbu, let me ask you the next question. How does the campus experience impact attracting and keeping talent?
I think the campus experience is by far the largest factor for especially the talent of today to be really attracted. So when I say campus experience, it starts right from the first touch point you have with the organization. We also have in certain cases people visiting, the students visiting the campus for their internship, for all these things, even before they're a full employee of the organization. So right from the time they enter into the campus, which also happens through our transportation many of the times. So that is the first experience they get of coming into the campus. And the sheer space that they see, the open spaces, the green spaces, it's literally like getting transported into a different world inside. And that's the kind of philosophy that we are building on. So as Smita was also mentioning, trying to give that experience and the feeler that you are in a very different space, the lobby, the reception lounge being very good to say that, okay, we are working in a global company, a world-class company. And especially for the Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, the most important thing is not to be tied to work in a closed room all day. That doesn't work for them. They get suffocated. So the question is that how do you interact with people? How do you chill out at the same time you're working? So how do you create these chill out spaces within the organization? So you have food courts. Along with that, you have working spaces. We have an entire free open area, which we call the podium, just outside the food court, where you have sort of spaces where they can sit, chat, discuss. We have a multifunction hall, a huge multifunction hall, which gives this feeling when you have these programs or these big events that you are in a different world altogether within that, which is completely acoustic and sound and light and all of that. So that entire experience is about the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas getting into a space where they feel they are in a modern organization. At the same time, they get the face time with the senior people in the organization so that the right kind of translation is happening in this process. So it's not like a complete Gen Alpha organization. You have a mix. You have the Gen X also there. So when those interactions happen, they also bring in the aspect of discipline, the aspect of structure that the organization needs. So it's the right induction program that we give. And I've always seen that this campus experience has always been helpful to us.
Subbu, great takeaway for me. Thank you for sharing that. Ramitra, you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Like what Subbu mentioned, covered very well in terms of the interns coming in and the fresh college grads. I want to add in a lens from a GCC standpoint. If you look at today's talent, what do they want? They want a challenging ecosystem to work where they can unlock their potential, right? They want to try new things. They want to experiment. They want to fail fast. They want to create something new. I think from that perspective, it is very important for GCC leaders to start thinking about investing in R&D centers. Like you have your office space, make sure you create an R&D center. An R&D center where people are allowed to experiment, fail fast, catch up, learn new technologies, unlock new technologies, right? And co-create new products, experiences, services for the customers back, in the global ecosystem. Like there is a concept that GCCs are only back office. I think it's time we shed that concept, invest in R&D, innovation, thought leadership, create digital and physical labs so that new products, services can be created sitting right here in India for our customers globally.
Smita, how does aspects like EVs, shuttles, all these impact workplaces?
So a few years back, like if you rewind about 5 years back, typically you would see that, you would really have to design for EV infrastructure. It would be like, it would be on spec. Somebody had to go back and look at it as an extreme addition to the way you would design your parking spots. But today it's become the norm. In fact, it's part of the table stakes. You do have EV charging points across every floors. I remember about 15 years back when SAP did this, they had a very specific area within ITPL where you could park all of the electric charging cars. But today, across most parks, you would see this as table stakes. Another thing that we see a lot of companies encouraging is for employees to actually use the public transport, things like metro or, public bus services that's available across the city so that you could kind of reduce the congestion that's there on the road, which means that there are several shuttles and pickup points that happen between the metro station and back to the office. So, even if you can reduce 5 cars on the road, I think it can, cut down several minutes or even hours for other fellow commuters who cannot really get access to metro or other connectivity, which kind of gives them last mile connectivity back to their office and homes. So we see a lot of these are measures for reducing congestion, getting employees to actually use public transport, looking at how could you create a lot more sustainability, awareness within the organization by providing a lot of these amenities.
Sureka, how do you encourage community and interactions in your workplaces?
So first of all, I think we've had the benefit of an office which is completely open. It's a single floor which houses about 500 of our employees. It has everything right from the function that interacts with our clients to bring the best of Russell Investments to them, as well as those who manage the portfolios and then, help with technology, operations, all of that. So I think the idea of creating that open space was to encourage that collaboration, was to create that spontaneous conversation that can happen about business, and for people to be able to walk over to another function and say, how did you do this? Where are the handoffs? And not having to have walls between yourselves or work in silos. The idea of the office is to also allow hot desking, which means at different points in time, you're sitting with different colleagues to collaborate. Sometimes business is sitting with technology, sometimes it's someone else. And the idea is to have that, foster that kind of, almost open space, if you may, mentally as well as physically when we think of business. So we do encourage our associates to kind of move around. We've also, created spaces where there is some break and reset that happens. So we have gaming zones, for example, in our cafeteria where people from different groups come together. And then, the game could very well lead into conversations about business. And that's a better way to kind of encourage conversation versus making people sit at specific locations. In terms of just the atmosphere, and I will use a Gen Z term, vibe. The office vibe is really about nature. So we've taken inspiration from nature. All our rooms are named after the national parks. We have a lot of biophilia in office. So you really feel that sense of even physical well-being when you come in. It feels like a nice warm atmosphere to walk in. So those are the things that we've done, Ramesh.
Thanks, Sureka, for sharing that. I like that perspective. Anil, what makes a campus truly future ready?
We believe in, think global and do local. I think Samita is based around that aspect. In terms of campus, it's about co-creation centers, right? Rather, act like an order taker from the HQ. Having said that, it's about focusing on creating community of practices, right? And also inclusiveness in driving innovation and definitely aligning with the strategic initiatives from the headquarters.
Subbu, you want to add to that?
The increased representation of women. A campus becomes future ready when you provide an inclusive environment for women. And it's not the same. You need to be careful about what are the specific needs of women at different points of time. For example, we have lactating rooms like nursing mother rooms. We have the daycare, the creche. These are spaces, while it might appear to be very simple as we look at it from an HR policy perspective, but when you go through the life cycle of the women employee, it's a big relief for them that they have these. So I think the future-ready organizations must consider these diverse groups that are going to become part of the employee. We already spoke about the Gen Zs and Gen Alphas and how the future workplaces need to cater to them. But the women workforce is also an important aspect of this.
Shaumitra, if there's one thing you'll change about your campus, what would that be?
There's definitely something in my mind, very passionate about. I think future-ready AI-rich cameras, physical cameras in the campus, so that intrusion detection, anomaly detection becomes real-time, and real-time data and analytics can be sent out to the security in the campus. This is more keeping in mind the physical and security and well-being of all the employees in the campus.
Great point, Shaumitra. Well put. Sureka, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we're still an evolving campus. So maybe it's there in the offering. I think food is the one comfort and common connection that holds us all together. So I'd really like to see more quality food, well-being from a nurture and food perspective, good food carts which offer associates different options that are rolling.
ESG, energy efficiency, and digital tools are now must-haves. Tenants want tech-enabled green campuses more than ever before. Smita, how is ESG shaping your real estate plans?
All large companies, especially your global organizations, all have ESG as key mandates, and they're essential when we're looking at an office. It could be LEED certification, green buildings are all now like standard must-haves if you're looking to shortlist a facility. But we're also seeing a lot of the other sensors and energy saving, lighting as well as HVAC, which used to be, good to have now become must-have requirements. But what we're also seeing is organizations are now coming back and asking us, could you also tell us if the partners that you're working with also are sourcing ethically so that you ensure that you're meeting the ESG standards across the world? So a lot of those mandates are what we are getting to see, along with, of course, a lot of investments in terms of organizations looking at promoting, employees to have EV cars so that they're adding back and they're giving carbon credits back to the organization and to the country. So that's what we're seeing in the area of ESG.
Anil, what is that one tech which is making a big impact at the workplace?
Secure digital communication and collaboration, products. I think across the different entities we operate, we do have 62 offices across the globe. I think the more collaborative ecosystem and having innovation hubs, as I mentioned about the community of practices, So having them operating in a global model that will, build more focused technology, driving the operational efficiency and also employee experience.
Smita, let me come back to you. There are so many Indian cities like Hyderabad, Pune, some tier 2 cities, Navi Mumbai, which is seeing so much of GCC traction. Why do you think this is happening?
So if you go back and look at some numbers as stats, I think if you look at 24-25, GCCs occupy close to about 760 million square feet, which is about 37 odd percent. This number is only going to go to about 40 odd percent by the time it's 2026, and they're going to add another 40-50 million. If you look at hubs like Bangalore, Hyderabad, thanks to access to talent, we're seeing that government and state governments don't need to be giving any more, subsidies or any other SOPs, because these have now become, very, attractive hubs for organizations to set up. Now, there are a couple of few hubs that we have across, which are major hubs. It could be like Gurgaon, Pune, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, which are tier 1 hubs. And, it's now moved to, can we set up a hub here? Instead, the question has now moved to, can we set up something faster? And I'm sure you're getting a lot of requests, especially in the Hyderabad market, with regards to Class A and Grade A infrastructure that's available in that market. But we're also seeing that with a lot of these GCCs that are expected to grow, about 300 of them coming in the next about 3 to 4 years, there is a need for growth that has to move from the tier 1 cities to tier 2 cities. So there's a lot of work that the state governments are doing. It could be with the policy or, creating attractive grade A infrastructures that's required for, GCCs to go and set up, as well as looking to build social infrastructure, digital infrastructure, connectivity. All of this work is what's happening with, states like Andhra Pradesh with Vizag, states like Madhya Pradesh with Indore and Bhopal. We're seeing this with Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. We're seeing other beyond Bangalore like Hubli, Mangalore, Mysore to be key connectivity spots, because these then can be hub plus one shores where, cities can or organizations can explore these cities as additional places that they can expand to. So talent, infrastructure, ease of doing business are 3 critical elements when we look at GCCs. And I think infrastructure plays an as equal role as the other 2. And I think this is what the tier 2 cities are also looking to build.
How does talent, real estate and government support drive this big GCC growth?
So I think, Ramesh, that's, at the crux of the success factor required for GCCs to thrive. And it's all joined at the hip. One can't, deal without another. We were recently at the Maharashtra Industry Dialogues that was a connectivity between the government and the industry. And I was very pleasantly surprised that there was a whole section on GCC, and I was sitting with the officer on special duty on stage. And one of the things he said is the commitment towards building even talent, because yes, the infrastructure exists and there'll be more of that. But he spoke to how we are getting global universities to start setting up campuses in India, in cities, so that we have more relevant talent. And the one that is, again, we are becoming one world. If we are supporting global organizations, then the talent also needs to come in with that kind of skill set. In terms of ease of doing business, it's very nice to see how the focus is going to GCC playbooks, which are coming across different states, trying to help organizations think of how they set up and how it can be done easier, faster, better. And obviously organizations like NASSCOM and, ANSR, I think, are helping out the new GCCs think of how we can get impact faster. You want to move, once you've made the decision, you want to get rolling. So I think that's the key part, that, almost everybody is being positively competitive now.
Let's start with you, Subbu. What does an office personally mean to you?
So when I think of the office, I think of that collaborative space where I sit with the team, my glass board and the pens with me, and start writing down what is it that we have to think about the future activities, the strategic action. So that space is extremely important to me. And that's what my office space means to me. Smita?
It's where I can go back and physically talk about the culture, values, brand, bring it all to life and get employees to actually interact and engage. That's what it means to me.
Shomil?
It's a stress buster for me, and I'll tell you why. All of us seated over here have very stressful jobs. We are dealing with clients, customers, different stakeholders, numbers every single hour, right? The moment I step into the office and I meet a coworker, I meet my team members, it's the human touch, that human connection, which acts like a big stress buster for me.
Surekh?
I see the office as a place where our purpose meets people, where we exchange ideas, we bond, and we all get the best of ourselves in front of our clients.
And
It should feel like home outside of the home. Basically, I should feel like visiting often. Yeah.
let me ask you the last question, Anand. What is that one non-negotiable amenity or feature which you would want to see in your office building or your campus?
I think talking about the amenities, it's part of the overall corporate plan. One non-negotiable amenities I would think of is having daycare facilities. I feel that some companies still evolving to introduce that program.
Surekh?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see more inclusion for people with disabilities, Ramesh. I think it's still a while we are only thinking about including women in the workforce. There's a huge population out there that needs enablement. And while offices themselves can do it, I think the campuses are the start point and the cities are the start point for the seamless integration of individuals with disabilities to enter the workforce. So I'd really like to see that.
Shomil?
Plus one with Surekha. I think disability is a big factor, and we are really not tapping into the potential which is there. I think it goes beyond office space. From the time they are picked up from their door till the time they are dropped back at home, I think there is a greater need for enabling that infrastructure for us to be successful in that space.
Smita?
It's always hard when you're the fourth one on this panel. But I'm thinking, a space where you concentrate on mental well-being. So meditation pods, you have access to apps, you've got music, it helps you unwind. Soumitra did talk about, having stressful jobs. And I think that's a great place for us to go back and relax and unwind and reset, calibrate and come back.
Great. So it's going to be hard and loose. Last one now. So I would agree with all of them. To add, I think two things. One is the biophilic open spaces. That is a non-negotiable because the automatic tendency is to fill that up with something else. That shouldn't happen. And the second is, in addition to the disability and the physically challenged thing, the earlier thing that I spoke about for women, that also shouldn't get compromised, and that should continue.
This has been a very energizing and deeply insightful conversation. Thank you all for sharing your experiences and ideas with such honesty and depth. At the CEO Dialogue, we believe that the best conversations happens not around a whiteboard, but around a breakfast table, where we come together not just to reflect, but to reimagine. Thank you for watching. Here's to building the workplaces of tomorrow with passion and purpose.